Thank you. It's a privilege for myself and the other presenter to be presenting in this international conference, and our topic of presentation is population, politics, and economic well-being and Indo-Fijian perspective. The presenters are myself, Rina Kumar, and I'm a lecturer at Fiji National University, and my other presenter is Professor Sunil Kumar, who is with the University of Fiji. In this presentation, I will be covering the introduction in brief history and some history with data, and the perceptions and negativity about Indians and Indian culture. And the other presenter will be covering the item number 4, 5, and 6, and which are the current economic status on ethnic basis, the possible new narratives, the existing economic problems and the future, and some concluding remarks. Indians were the indentured laborers over a period of 37 years. So, that is from 1879 till 1916. And in total, there were approximately 60,965 laborers that in total came over from India to work on the under this indentured labor system on the sugar industry or sugarcane. So who initiated the indenture and why? The British, the governor of British Fiji colony, Sir Arthur Gordon, he was the first substantive governor of the British Fiji during the 1875 to 1880. In that 5 years, he saw the need for laborers in Fiji, and to meet these laborers, he had put up this idea of getting people from countries like India to work on the sugarcane. He found this a very important and urgent, a desperate need, because the natives who are the Fijians, were prohibited from doing work or getting employed in the commercial sector, and so that was the reason which was causing an increased uncertainty in the cost of importing Polynesian labor. And so the Indians were the option which was taken in and brought in, and therefore they were brought in to work on the field. Okay. Quite a few of the immigrants kept up ties with India. Their families, they had a constant contact with their families and had the hope of going back, but only 40% returned, and that is according to Gillian and other historians like Bijlal, and many of them suffered great hardship. The conditions were laid by the British controlled government, that after 5 years of Girmit, they were free to return to India at their own expense. But the question is, did they have the money or their savings to go back? How much were they paid? Well, basically, a lot of them found it impossible to go back. And in that condition, they were not able to go back. And so they were given a further condition that if they stay back and work on the field for 10 years, then the colonial government would provide free passage back to India to every Girmitiya and their children. And so did that really happen, right, at the end of 10 years of Girmit? Now, there was no clear procedures for the application of free passage. And how many did actually get the free passage? That is not known. But in total, 40% of the Girmitiyas were able to go back at the end of the 10-year period of Girmit. And why did the Girmitiyas stay back? It is argued that they were prevented from returning to India by the colonial government of Fiji and the colonial sugar refinery company of Australia. There was still need for a continuous need for laborers on the sugarcane field. And so it was not of any advantage to the CSR to help these Girmitiyas return to India at the end of 10 years. And so the idea of not putting up proper procedures for them to travel back to India as a free passage was seen. And we can see that had happened. And so the administrative blinds were used to confuse these potential applicants. And so many of them could not go back to India, and they had no choice but to stay back. And there were some lures too. The leased land and farming opportunities were offered to these Girmitiyas as an incentive, or they were basically given that to be able to stay back. Because from these Girmitiyas, hard labor, the CSR was reaping a very good or lucrative profit out of the system, indigenous system. But at the end of the 10 years or the 37 years, within the 37 years, only 40% of the Girmitiyas were able to return to India. I'm going to refer to this, the table here, and this is some history with data on the population of the trend that is shown in the increasing and decreasing population of our Indians, the Girmitiyas, and our natives as well. So my focus is more on the Indians. They started coming into Fiji in 1879. And but my figures here are shown from 1880 onward. And we can see that the total population of Indians in 1881 was 588. And then you can see that in the table, there's in one decade, that's a 10-year gap, all right, period. In a decade, there were more Girmitiyas that were brought from India, and within the 10 years, the figure had risen to 7,468. That was an increase by almost 5.7%. Then further, after another decade, the figures have increased. More laborers came in, and then it continued like that for so many decades, 3 decades, 3.5 decades, and the population of Indians had gone that high. 1916 was the last batch of Girmitiyas that arrived into the country under this indentured labor system. And you can see that. Okay, but as the population of Indians started to rise from then, you can see that the natives population in 1881 was 114,748. But suddenly within that decade, the 10-year period, the population had significantly fallen to 105,800. What was the reason for this? It was I think the spread of measles that was killing a lot of natives, and this was brought into the country by the immigrants, so within that period, you can see that by 1936, 1921, sorry, there was significant fall in the natives population. However, maybe by then some vaccinations may have happened and their population started to rise. So, but as at the same period, you can see that the Indian population kept rising, and by 1976, you can see that the population has really gone to 292,896, which is by 49.8%. That is significant. But before that, even 1966, there was an Indian population was 50%, and then it started to fall a little bit, and then 1986 it has fallen. This is due to there was a bad negative narrations by the British people, and the Indians started to, the British people were putting negative narrations about the Indians, that if the Indian population grows significantly, like it is shown here in this period, there was a fear created amongst the natives that the Indians will take over the politically the government. And, you know, that's what I gather from it. And then, so the negative narratives were related, and Sunil will tell more about it. So the people started to migrate, and then there was less of population started to basically decline for the Indians. And okay, all right. So the next slide, Sunil will move on with the next slide, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. The main issue in this presentation is the population. We're trying to link the population growth of Indo-Fijians with that of political negativity, and we are suggesting at the end of this presentation what are some of the solutions to this. And one, of course, as you can see in this data, that the red mark, which is showing the population of Indo-Fijians rising way above the native population. So during that time, that is the time when all the negative, narrations were coming out, which were motivating, the native Fijian leadership to actually take on those negative narratives. So that was the beginning of the political trouble of the Fiji Islands. So I'm just trying to put in place here some of the perceptions about Indian lifestyle, Indian culture, Indian dominance, the perceptions giving rise to that negativity. So here, Indo-Fijians, soon after the expiry of the or end of the indenture, Indians started accumulating wealth. They started, creating all kinds of, ventures and things which got them into accumulation of a lot of wealth, including the land that they could acquire on lease and freehold that existed. Indian culture was seen as a threat to the Christian way of life. Now, this is a significant thing, and you would see in the narratives, this is very evident. a lot of negativity arose from job placements at the time during the pre-87 period. That is when lots of Indo-Fijians were taking senior positions in the civil service. So that was also taken up as a negative and was a drive for Britishers, and also the people of the other ethnic groups, particularly the Europeans, were trying to create those narratives. And also the native leadership was picking that up. And that, of course, culminated into 1987 coups. And you would have seen the data here, which is showing the change in the pattern of growth of the Indo-Fijian population. Around 1986, early 90s, that is when the population started falling. 1999, then all these things fizzled out. From 1993 to 1998, that is when the new constitution was being made. There was a lot of consultation and lots of discussions on what kind of race relations would exist in the country. After the resolution of the constitution came the elections, and 99 elections saw the Labour Party winning the election and forming the government. And that is when the narrations again started, the negatives and so on, and it culminated into a coup. This is the way. So there's a link between this dominance, this ability of the Indo-Fijian political parties and leadership to be able to cobble up support and get into power. And from 1999 to 2006, there were land issues that drove lots of Indian farmers out of their farms into suburban and urban settlements. So this is how the pattern built up. And of course, I would want to say that there have been, crimes and things, targeted crimes and things that were related to the political narratives. So these are things that one has to understand to know how things, actually move politically in the country. And we might see certain semblance of that happening now. 2006 coup changed a lot of things, and broadly people, political analysts figure that out. The nature of politics, the perceptions, the race relations and things all changed after 2006. Political rights current economic and status and the political rights of ethnic Indians is there under the 2013 constitution. The narratives, of course, have changed for a number of reasons. Indians continue to dominate economically. That continues even when the population has fallen up to about 30%. The dominance of Indo-Fijians in the commerce area continues. But the good part is that the native Fijians are climbing the ladder in terms of professionals, which is bringing about some degree of balance. The two dominant ethnic groups are much more at ease with each other. I can see that. I'm not quite sure deep down what is happening. Cross-party, cross-ethnic political collaborations are very likely to happen. And we are going to see in the coming elections that is happening. The new narratives that could arise out of the situation, I think, is the increasing poverty among ethnic Fijians, the native Fijians. And you can see the figure here, around 75% of all poor come from the ethnic natives in the country, which is already being picked up as an election issue, I think. And it could arise into a bigger problem. But even then, it is less likely to, I think it is less likely to escalate into some kind of, ethnic narratives. Economic rights could re-emerge. I think it will emerge in a milder form. I'm not sure, but there could be targeted crimes happening that could create another dimension to politics. The victim card is played everywhere, like the Black African population in the US. you would see everywhere in democratic countries, all kinds of things are happening. But what has happened in South Africa recently and what's happening in Guyana is something that is setting a bad example and giving us to think that there could be bad times. What is the solution? The only solution for the country is to prosper economically. And to prosper economically, we would need the right policies. So my thinking is that that can happen. It can happen very quickly. It can happen very quickly because of the geographical location of the country and the kind of population we have. We have good infrastructure for education. We are in the center of the ocean, Pacific, and we have lots of people wanting to come to Fiji for work, to stay, and so on. So that's the positive side of our politics. I'm presenting some, data here. This shows that our economic sectors have not been doing well, which is a bad sign, and it is simply because of bad management of the economy. Shoe industry has fallen. You can see it fell to about its 50%, what used to be in 2006. This is a bad sign. Well, it could bring about change in the structure of our economy, but how quickly it happens, we don't know. Well, concluding remarks, I would say we have to work hard. The leaders have to work hard to prop up the economy. It can be done, as I've said. There are many different dimensions through which we can do it. We have enough resources. We have to make our resources more productive. That's the way to go. Internalization of the economy, that is post-COVID. There, again, as I've said, we have marine resources, we have forest resources, we have agricultural resources, which we can transform into quick, economic output. We need technologies. Technologies are available. We need international agreements to synergize our, sector growth. So these are some of the ways in which we could move very quickly and resolve our issues, whether they be political or they be economic. So I'm just showing here a bit of things. We have a good future. And I think the Fiji's mix of different ethnic groups is a fantastic phenomena, but it has to be managed appropriately in terms of economics, in terms of the social measures, and of course political direction in which we are going to move. Thank you very much. Dhanbad and Vinaka Bakulevu.